In one of the previous videos I did a review of the construction Minecraft mod Axiom, which adds unreal opportunities for creativity, especially for those who do not want to memorize a huge number of combinations of commands for all sorts of plugins like World Edit. Today I want to come up with and create a build for you using both World Edit and the Axiom mod. Let's see how this works out. So, I'm in a program with a neural network. There's a model, there's code for it to create something cool. We press a button and we wait. We get this picture, and by simple manipulations I turn it into this, then into this, add more additional details, and then this comes out, and so after small modifications we get this picture. You can even zoom in and look at it. The neural network has added some more machine right on the central platform, but we won't look at it. There is a mini annex. There is a garden, which is on 2 levels of different heights, also additionally a green zone, paths, all such a beautiful house. It is very interesting, and I think that we can already work with it. Well, and of course, for apostrodalnoi today as I said earlier, will use the mod Axiom with a bunch of different tools for construction, a review of which I did before, a link to the video with a review you will find also in the description, to be able to watch the tutorial and catch how this mod works in general. I do not know how much time it will not take and what will come out of it. The goal to make a straight identical construction as in the picture I do not have. It is only for inspiration. Enjoy the show, let's go. The first thing I did was to sketch the right side of the future building, because for the most part this building is symmetrical, then 90% of the building can be done with just. I use diamond blocks, which will later be replaced by different combinations of building materials. I use diamond blocks, which will be later replaced by different combinations of building materials. The building has a central high part and 2 vertical inserts on the sides, which protrude up to the roof level. This gives 2 main floors and a 3rd floor in these sections, plus an attic under the roof and plus a lot of space inside. The purpose of this video was to create a building to the maximum and using the capabilities of the mod Axiom. It is constantly being refined by the way, and it adds a bunch of new functionality, which is much more convenient than the standard World Edit. So, the main part of the building is ready. So far it is made of stone, and at the time I built it I understood that to leave the main building gray and add to it gray walls will be too sad. With colors and additional detailing I was going to work closer to the end, when it will be possible to assess the scale of the building and its final appearance and so on. Since the building itself in addition to the building consists of several levels with platforms and all of them do not have right angles, I needed to create rounded shapes for future walls. And this helped me just like the new functionality in Axiom, which allows you to create curved lines, and of course it turned out not without faults. At that time I was building about 3 hours and redo a huge piece of wall on the right where you can see a small protruding corner on the rounded surface. I was simply lazy. Later I was all kinds of confused to hide it, but still it was there and remained. Then began the marking of roads and sites. Not everything in these levels should be covered with trees and grass. I still need paths, fountains, street lamps, benches, flower beds, fences and so on. It was necessary to divide the logical paths between these levels and the ability to move along them. In principle not a difficult task, more of a pain, especially to build diagonal steps between different heights of levels. At that point I realized that the building turns out to be somehow too low and it should be slightly increased. I raised the level of its walls by 4 blocks, but this later was not enough. A little later I will add in the height of the walls of another 4 blocks to make the windows a little more elongated. Then planting vegetation. If before I would take templates of trees and one by one inserted them in the right places, this is if single player game, or used a brush from the plugin that inserts the copied object from a distance. This is already for multiplayer, but now in Axiom there is a stamp. In it you add several types of objects that you want to insert, specify the distance between them, specify whether they will be rotated relative to each other and then draw a brush area where you want them. to appear, and magically dozens of different trees appear on green areas, saving just a gigantic amount of time. Then for the flower beds, I made sketches of shrubs with flowers and copied them wherever I needed them and started to create street decor. Low street lamps for 2 lamps and benches with armrests and backrests were immediately placed in the central part of this building. Later from there they will also be copied to the road and to the additional walking area. You probably think it all looks so plain, as if, at this particular moment in my old age, I look like this. It actually looks more like this. Right now the build is still flat and needs detailing on the walls and interior. The long road should not be monolithic like a ditch bridge, and naturally, in order not to be out of style, arches should also be present on the outer walls. The main problem is to build the arches according to the shape of the walls themselves, thus not to be too much out of compliance with their dimensions. To make the arches stand out even more, I painted the interior space with a slightly darker block. After the building was almost completely ready, I placed it in the right place, and now the important task was to fit the building into the landscape. Since I have not learnt yet in the fashion axiom to use masks so as not to spoil other surrounding objects, here is not useful already world edit with which I know how to work, and forbidding him to act on any blocks except air, I began to fill everything around the castle sand. Then I smoothed the sand and gave it a kind of natural shape so that it did not stand out too much from the landscape of the mountains in the background, and recolored it in stone and earth. The big green plains looked very sad around the castle, and I had to still make less tree templates and create a forest using the same stamp tool from the Axiom mod. If I have an arched bridge, why not also add the river it passes through? Said, done. Quickly sought out another huge ditch for the river and repainted it in a combination of colors that usually appear in these rivers, which are gravel, sand and earth. I smoothed out the banks of the future river and filled everything with water. Next, it was also necessary to enliven the area with vegetation. Here the combination of blocks included grass, tall grass, fern and various flowers. And after 11 hours or so everything was ready. It all took a little bit of building, a few hours a day, and I would try to build more, but I have hardcore videos to do, and that's where I'll end it. Here's a look at what I've got underneath. Pleasant music, and leave your feedback in the comments. Don't forget to like it as well if you want more build videos like this. I really hope you enjoyed this build, and be sure to check it out with shaders directly.